You do. I'll just welcome everyone to the February Council Ordinary Meeting. I'll open the meeting with the acknowledgement of country. Richmond Valley Council recognises the people of the Bundjalung Nations as custodians and traditional owners of this land, and we value and appreciate the continuing culture connection to lands, their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region in the past, present and future. Mr General Manager, could read the prayer, please.
Dear Lord, we meet to serve our Richmond Valley community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognise our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Amen.
Thank you. There is no public access, which is item 3. Apologies. We have one apology from Councillor Humphries. Could I get a mover of that, please?
Move, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey. Second to Councillor Cornish. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Mayoral minute. There's no mayoral minute. Confirmation of minutes on page 6. Could I get someone to move the confirmation, please, of the accuracy? Councillor McGillen. Seconder. Councillor Cornish. Is everyone okay with the accuracy of the minutes? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour. Item 7, matters arising out of those minutes. Any matters arising, councillors? Declarations of interest. Yes, councillors have any declarations of interest? Mr General Manager, have you received any from staff? Or?
No declarations received.
Thank you. Petitions nil. Notice of motions nil. Page 8, I'll move my mayoral report. Could I get a seconder, please?
Second, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey. Any questions or business out of those? Put that motion in. All those in favour. Delegates' report says nil. Matters determined without debate. Has any councillors got any items they'd like to call? Councillor Hayes.
14.3 and 15.2.
14.2 and 15.2.
14.3.
14.3, sorry.
15.2.
I will call 15.1. It's a planning issue. 17.1, because we believe we have a presentation on that review, and 17.3.
You also have to call 14.1.
Sorry? Oh, 14.1 for the election deputy mayor. So I believe we've got 14.1.
So, no, yeah, so you need,
Eh?
So you need to resolve 14.2, 16.1, 2 and 3. And
No, I've got 14.1, 14.2, 14.3, 15.1.
who called 14.2? You did you? Did you call 14.2? I didn't have it.
No, all right, we'll start again. We've got 14.1, 14.3,
Yep.
15.1, 17.1, 17.3,
And 15.2.
and 15.2. Robert, Councillor Hayes, yep, okay. So now we need a motion for 16.1 Sorry, 14.2, 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, 17.2 and 17.4. Correct?
Yep.
Can I get a mover, please?
Moved, Mr Mayor. Second.
Seconder? Councillor Cornish. I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. We now move to page 10 for item 14.1. I need a mover for that recommendation, please.
Moved, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey, seconder.
Second.
Councillor Hayes. I'm just checking that everyone's aware that the voting will be open voting by show of hands. Okay. Any debate? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. I'll now hand over to the General Manager to conduct the election procedure, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've received one nomination. I'll just firstly give the opportunity for councillors if there was another nomination from the floor. So no nominations from the floor. So I've received a nomination from Councillor Morrissey, which has been signed by 2 other councillors, so it's compliant. So I'll therefore declare Councillor Morrissey Deputy Mayor for the duration of this term of council, so through until September.
Congratulations,
24.
Councillor Morrissey.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors.
Mr General Manager, also believe we have the Traffic Committee.
Yeah, so we also need to appoint a councillor representative to the local traffic committee. Our current representative is Councillor Hayes. So it's an opportunity for we need to reappoint or appoint a new councillor to that. So open the floor to nominations.
Well, I'll nominate Councillor Hayes if he's still interested in doing the...
Yeah, happy to do it.
Any other nominations?
Okay, Councillor Hayes will be appointed as our traffic committee representative for the duration of this electoral term. Thanks, Councillor Hayes.
Do we need a motion? Thank you. Thank you, Mr General Manager. I think we're on to item 14.3. I'll move that. What did I call that?
Councillor Hayes called it.
Okay, that's all right. I'll second it.
I'll move. You second. Thank you.
I had it down to call myself. So, Councillor Hayes.
Look, just some comments around what council's done, and look, council have done some great work with the recovery from the floods. And in there on page 19, it says it shares its community concerns with the ongoing delays to the buyback and the Resilient Homes initiatives. It goes on to say we'll continue advocacy to the Northern Rivers Reconstruction Corporation to expedite these programs and provide applicants with the answers they need. That's still not forthcoming. No one's getting answers out of that Reconstruction Commission quickly, or the answers they're looking for. And I think it's important that we keep advocating to get the Reconstruction Commission in order, basically, and get them to promote what they're doing and progress it in a quicker fashion than what they're doing. I think we need to be really stringent on communicating with him over the next 12 months. Yeah.
The other day I went to a JO meeting, and the director, I suppose you call him.
I think you said David Witherden, the Chief Executive.
Chief Executive of the Reconstruction Corporation. He gave us an update there, and did make the comment that he's happy to come to councils. I'd, if you'd like to include in the recommendation, it's your motion that we invite him to come to a information session and address council, and then we can express our concerns if you want to include that in your motion.
I'd like to include that, but I'd also just like to comment, I attended I think I've told you this before, I attended the meeting at Woodburn from the Reconstruction Commission where they come to answer questions that you had to have submitted to the meeting prior. And look, Jenny Dow was there as the coordinator of that meeting. The questions were thrown at the commission and his committee that were there. And to my personal point of view, he did not answer one question adequately to satisfy the people in the room. And there was no chance for people to question their answers because that wasn't allowed. There was a couple of questions from the floor at the end, and they were answered adequately, I suppose. But overall, the questions were just bypassed. There's nothing concrete in whatever they're doing about the way they're going about it, how they're going to get the thing out there, how they're going to get future finance for it. They're just all blank answers. There's nothing there. There's no concrete answers to anything. And a lot of the people's questions were based around the areas their properties are in and how they will be determined and assessed. And from the word go on that thing, there was always going to be a map produced, simple, and it was very simple. If you're in this area, that's what you'll get. Well, that's not the case. And they've said that now that is not the case. Everything will be treated individually, which I can understand. Why didn't they tell them that from the beginning? And the other thing is, if you have applied and you definitely don't qualify for anything, they're not telling you. They're not coming out and saying, righto, there's 1,000 applications that are going to absolutely be put to one side and not. They should be telling them. They should be working from that up instead of from the top down. They've indicated that there's 25 houses on the buyback scheme that they're looking at. As far as I know, none of those prices for those buybacks have been negotiated to an acceptable standard, and it's nothing like what they first proposed.
Just to, I heard on the ABC yesterday that he was on there and he did mention that there was some offers had gone out just recently since that meeting. So, yeah, I'll support that that being included as a seconder into the motion. On the broader report, I think it's a very positive progress report, considering what we've been through over the last 12 months and the last few years. I note on page 17, the little graph down the bottom, and there's some completed. We're on schedule for a large majority of the work ahead of us, and there's only a small, very small section that is behind schedule. So I might ask the General Manager to give us an update. I think it's a very important report, and if he can give us some further comments, please.
So just firstly on the issues raised by Councillor Hayes, I can assure you that we continue to advocate on behalf of both Council and the community with a range of government agencies to get that support and get some answers. We do have a meeting later this week on the Resilient Lands program with the Reconstruction Corporation. So there are meetings and things happening, but I do, and that's obviously why it's in the report, agree that people want answers, people want progress, and in their minds it's not happening quickly enough. That message is being passed on. I think they understand clearly that that's the view of the community, but what they're dealing with is a large, complex challenge, and I think they're also challenged by getting the required resources, as we all are. And so I'm not making excuses, but I do know that they've got some challenges as well. But we'll keep the pressure on, and I think we'll hopefully get David to join us at the March info session. If he can't do March, we'll get him to April, and yeah, we can have a very focused conversation about the Richmond Valley, because sometimes the conversations sort of tend to focus on the broader region. So we'll do that. As far as the delivery program progress report, yes, majority on schedule. A lot of the on-schedule activities in our delivery program are our business as usual activities. So obviously we're keeping them on track, and we've got some behind schedule, but as is identified in the report, those are the Norton's Gap realignment project, which we know frustrates many in our community, is an important link in our road network. We only had discussions again today with Transport for New South Wales representatives about that project. We are moving it forward with geotechnical work and design to be as ready as we can be to put it out to tender, but we can't put it out to tender until we have a confirmed funding source. And hopefully there's some announcements in the next couple of weeks around the Transport Betterment Fund that we submitted an application for a component of that job, so that when we fix the road, there's less chance of it happening again by having an improved catch fence above the road. So that's the Norton's Gap one. Councillors may be aware that we reissued in the last couple of days, it's been getting into letterboxes, a specific roads update community newsletter. So that is out and in the community and includes a detailed update on Norton's Gap and other road projects, including the Bentley Road Rockfall, which there should be some work happening on that before the end of March. You would have seen some recent work actually started happening on that. The next one's the Richmond Valley Jobs Precinct Master Plan, Regional Jobs Master Plan. So continue to do work on that. I'd have to say it's been delayed by some of the investigations and technical reports, but also by the fact that we had a couple of large floods last year, which has changed our flood modelling. And we only had a meeting this week working through what that means for some of the areas within the regional job precinct. Yes, there's some delays. The target is to have the draft master plan out for public consultation by August this year. And the third one is our casino memorial pool upgrade, which really has just been impacted by floods and wet weather. And obviously last year we pretty much lost 6 months of the year where we couldn't do much because we had a large hole in the ground that kept filling up with water. But progress, as you saw at a visit that you all had earlier this month, they're getting on with it, and our target is to have it open by August this year. So they're the three that are behind, that are obviously important projects for us. But overall, in good shape. Look, we're in good financial shape, as some of the reports in this business paper show. We've moved from a business, that our annual budget's around the sort of 70 million. At the moment, it's about 110, but that's as a consequence of a lot of the recovery effort, the waste cleanup, the roads projects that we have to do. So it's been a big task managing all those flows of funding, and our grants team are busy, our finance team are busy keeping track of all that. We've got our recovery team that are focused on the infrastructure side of things. So there is a lot happening, but we're confident that we have things as in hand as we can. We'd like to have more resources. We'd like to have faster supply chains. So there are some constraints, but that's Australia-wide. So we just have to deal with that. But we're working regionally. The Reconstruction Corporation also has an infrastructure coordination office, so we're working with them, pushing them to come up with some, ways to get more resources into this region. So, but overall, I think it's a pleasing 6 monthly report. Plenty for us to focus on across this year, as is in the other report that we included, the strategic priorities report for this year. So that outlines, some of the key focus areas for us. So it's a bit of an overview, but happy to take any particular questions that councillors may have.
Thank you. Is there any questions from councillors? No? Any councillor to say anything? Comment? Councillor Hayes, right or reply?
Yeah, just another comment. I think council, in the early stages of the flood recovery and when we're advocating for caravans to be used in Woodburn instead of another pod village, I think that's been a great step forward, and Woodburn and Broadwater seem to be recovering quite well. I think the pods at Coracai have already caused issues, and I think there's more around the corner. And Evans Head, thank God they're only caravans, but you know, the sooner it's done and dusted, the better as well, I think. So I think that's the way we went about advocating for caravans, especially for Woodburn, and then flowed into Broadwater has been great. So thank you.
Thank you, and that part 4 has been added. Okay. Put that motion and all those in favour? Carried. 15.1 I call this is a planning matter, so I'll move that. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey. I don't need to comment. Any other councillors? Put that motion then. Carried. (15.2) Councillor Hayes.
I'd like to add a .3 and maybe a .4 to the recommendation. So 1 and 2 as it stands, and number 3 will be closes and prohibits vehicular access to Air Force Beach from 9 p.m. in the evening to 5 a.m. in the morning, effective immediately.
From 9 p.m. to 5
a.m.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so no vehicles on there between the hours of 9 to 5.
Yep.
Okay, and .4, I'm going to put it up there. If there's no improvement over the next 6 months in the fines and the use of the beach, that the beach is closed permanently to vehicles.
I'll just wait for him to put that up on the screen. Is that it? Okay. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor McGillen. Councillor Hayes.
Oh, look, this has been a thorn in our side for quite a while, and with that report about the amount of activity on the beach in those hours that the ranger was there, and I think we could triple it for the hours he wasn't there. I think it's time to do something, and it has to be something that's pretty firm. And I think closing it from 9 in the evening till 5 in the morning will stop a lot of that activity. Okay, as though it's not recorded yet because we can't expect the ranger to be there in those times, but it definitely happens. You've only got to go to the beach the next morning or listen of a night time and you can hear them. You can walk out at any time, most nights during the holidays especially, look into the sky and see the spotlight shining up in the air. So the vehicles aren't vertical, they're looking up horizontal, they're vertical. So there's a lot more activity going on up there than what has been reported. I know a lot of people are aware of it, and I think something needs doing. The beach is getting wrecked. Yeah. And look, we've only got a small, we've shut it down, there's only a small area, nothing's changed. since we've done that. I think we've got to do something else. Dot point 4 is probably the last resort. I'm happy to put it up there.
Councillor McGillan, do you want to speak?
Yes, thank you. I also have noticed that the speed that people do drive on the beach, and they just don't stick to one side. They do go into the water, and when you're walking your dogs, it's actually like you feel like you're walking on a highway, because you know it is a dog area. It is a dog exercise beach, and yes, I have to agree. Yeah, it's getting out of control.
Look, I can't support the add-on motions. The reason because it's I don't think we could just make a decision like that now. There would need to be, I think, public consultation. The government departments would have to have some input into that. So I don't think we can resolve to do that here. I would support that a report come back to council on these issues and explaining what the legalities are behind our endeavours to do that. But to do it now, I just don't think it may not be achievable straight away. So I might get the General Manager to comment on that. He may have another opinion to what I think.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The proposed 3 at this time wouldn't be a lawful resolution because we don't have the universal power to do that. So we'd need to add something in there following consultation with other agencies because it is Crown land. So we could change 3 to say following any required consultation with relevant government agencies. Council's intent, express our intent, but we would need to get agreement from Crown lands and probably the main ones, but also national parks, and obviously we do work closely with the police. So I think the question really is, do you want to amend 3 to include that consultation, because we'd need to do that first before we can actually achieve the outcome that your motion is seeking? Or the alternate is, as the Mayor has suggested, that we come back to you with a report at the next meeting that steps out very clearly how we would go about the intent of your proposed 3, and also what we would do to consult and seek the views of people about the intent of number 4. So really there's 2 paths you could go.
Okay, if that's the legal way we've got to go about it, well, that's the way we've got to do it. So I'm happy to change that to say that the dot point 3 and 4, after consideration of the legal content and in association with the right government agencies, and then continue on to indicate that that's what we're considering to do.
I think if we get a report to come back to council on the issue, then we could resolve which way we go about it. That's. I want to know the legalities and everything behind it from a report to council. Yeah.
So it's proposed to have 3 as consults with relevant government agencies with a view to closing vehicular access to the beach from 9 PM to 5 AM. And proposed 4 is considers permanently closing the beach if there is no improvement over the next 6 months. No, you probably need to change that to considers permanently closing the beach to vehicular access. So after beach, put to vehicular access and then drop that off the end of it. If there is no improvement over the next 6 months.
You would have to also consult with the government departments on that too, agencies, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And
it's totally different than the number 3. Yeah.
Following consultation with relevant government agencies.
And would public consultation be in that too? I'm just trying to get it. So
following public consultation and...
That's why I think we really need to get a report back to tell us the process we need to follow if we're going to go down that road.
You could say, just say following public and government agency consultation. And government agency consultation. Yeah. So full stop after consultation. Probably one of the things to consider is that there will still need to be, or we may need to consider some vehicular access. So they're the sorts of things we're going to have to work through with emergency vehicles, commercial fishers. So there's a range of stakeholders that we're going to have to sort of contemplate if we head in this direction. So that's, I suppose, why that consultation bit
and that
fits in.
won't be any different to what we had to do to close Boundary Creek, was it?
No, I think that motion, as it stands, basically requires us to do things that would lead to a report back to council to enable you to make a follow-on decision.
Yeah, look, I'm happy with the way that's written now, but open to listen.
Well, I'm going to move an amendment, which will be 3, and I'm sorry I haven't given it to you, but I'll read it out. That a report be submitted to council on the process of limiting access of vehicular access to Air Force Beach. And we can talk about the limiting what access it be when that report comes to council. And I think that will, in that report, would identify the engagement with government departments, the process would we have to go through for public access, what requirements we would have to have in there for people who need to use the beach, and I just think that's the correct way to go about it, so we don't make a decision that we can't enforce. So, if I can get a seconder for that, please. Oh, sorry. So it'll be 1 and 2 plus. It'll be 1 and 2 plus a 3. I know what Councillor Hayes is trying to achieve, but I just think there's a need to go about it in a correct way.
I'll support the amendment because items 1, 2, 3 and 4 that I've put up there will stay in the business paper, won't they?
So if you're going to support the amendment, you'll withdraw your motion?
Stays in the business paper though, doesn't it?
Sorry?
It does. It stays in the business paper, doesn't it?
Yeah, it'll be in the
Okay,
business
yep,
paper that
yep.
it was withdrawn. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It should stay in there, shouldn't it? Yep. Yep. Yeah, I'll need a seconder now. That amendment will now become the motion. Councillor Morrissey. I don't need to speak on because I've said what I believe. Any other councillors?
I'll speak on that now because, look, if we don't do something soon, there's going to be an accident and it's going to be fatal. Okay, it's been so close for so long for something to go wrong down there, and it's not regulated or policed enough to stop that, and there's no way we can do it. So I think something's got to be done, and I think this is the start of it. You know, so.
Councillor Cornish.
Yeah, look, I think it's clearly a sensitive issue within the LGA, and there's, I think, legitimate views both for and against, and this seems to rear its head every 12, 18 months kind of thing. But I think potentially a restriction is probably going to be the next logical step if we were to move forward in that direction. And I think I'd like to think that council acknowledges, you know, legitimate beach use as well, including fishermen and recreational use with families and stuff. But I think just with the increase in antisocial behaviour on the beach, unfortunately, it's looking like one of those things where we may have to implement some form of restriction or so.
Any other speakers? All right, I'm just going to make a comment as I close. I think what's adding to the problem is a lot of other areas, their beaches are being closed. So those people are now coming here, and a lot of them are from interstate, and it's a little bit raffety rules up there, and they just come down here and won't obey the signs, and then they rip the bollards down, and you know, and it's antisocial behaviour, and I think as a responsible council we have to look at how we can control it. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I believe we're on 17.1. We have a presentation, I believe, Mr. General Manager.
We do, just the quarterly update on our budget review statement, which Director Gator will deliver for us. So we'll just get there's a presentation, so we'll just get that ready once Julie's finished tidying that one up.
Mr. Gator.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a snapshot of the December quarterly budget review. The proposed increase in income from continuing operations is 12.46 million, and that takes our total income for this financial year to just over $111.5 million, the most it's ever been since I've been here in the last 10 years, and it's a good 40 million on top of what we normally have. Expenses from continuing operations, an increase of 3.1 million to 77.2 million, which gives us a net operating result from continuing operations around 34.5 million. Operating result before capital grants and contributions has also increased the surplus there by 4.9 million up to 5.436 million. There's no change to non-cash expenses. Our asset sales and loan borrowings have decreased by just over 3 million, so now they sit around 1.5 million. Capital expenditure has increased by $520,000 to $54.083 million. Loan and principal repayments, because of those loan borrowings changing, have decreased a little bit, just over 39,000, which takes those payments back to 3.37 million. Estimated funding result is a deficit of 3.382 million. That's funded by 3.6 million from reserves, and the cash, unrestricted cash, is unchanged at 287,260. The main changes on the operating income and expenditure, we've got an increase in income received of 275,000 from section 711 and 712 contributions, and that these increases are just to bring the budgets in line with actuals as at current date. In the roads area, we've got an increase in operating income of 2.841 million due to claims received from flood repair emergency works. And in waste, we've got an increase in operating income of 5.103 million due to monies received from Public Works Advisory in relation to transport of all the waste to Queensland from the February 2022 flood. The main changes for this review are in the capital works program. We're still being strongly impacted by supply constraints and contractor availability, and this is expected to continue for this financial year and probably next. We've also had persistent wet weather, especially in the first quarter of the year, and that has impacted some of the commencement of the capital works projects. We've again performed a thorough review of Council's capital work program, and this has resulted in a net increase of $519,000. So now we've got a projected capital works program of 54.08 million. As at December, total expenditure was just over 22.3 million, which is 41.26% complete. The major changes for capital works in the tourism, under the tourism area, we've got $1 million in capital grants and expenditure for the Northern Rivers Rail Trail transferred to next year, and this that means the majority of the funding for that expenditure for that project will happen in the 23-24 financial year. Under building and maintaining roads, we've increased capital income by 4.73 million due to grants received for disaster recovery restoration works. Capital expenditure has increased by 3.13 million in relation to the same disaster recovery works. Under sports ground, parks and facilities, we've got $1 million transferred to next financial year for the casino showground. This brings the costings in line with the current project plan. We did end up doing extra consultation work with user groups over the master plan, which has put the start of that program out a bit. Swimming pools, we've got 141,000 in grant funding received and 265,000 in capital expenditure added to the capital works for the Evans Head Aquatic Centre, and that's for the roof and shade structure repairs. Under sewage services, we've got 430,000 in section 64 contributions added, and that's to bring in line with actual income received. The majority of that funding, those monies received for extra developments in land releases. The big one out here on Hare Street. 229,250 increase in capital works at the Riley's Hill treatment plant due to flood damage at that plant. In stormwater management, $322,342 transferred to next year for Illawong Lane drainage improvements. These are funds that will actually be used for the construction of the project, which is planned to commence in August next financial year. The planning for that is still continuing in this year. Real estate development, we've had just over 2 million in real estate sales removed. The settlements are not expected to occur at the end of by the end of the financial year, and 1.78 million in real estate purchases transferred to next financial year. So in conclusion, the major changes in this quarter review are largely as a result of additional grant funding being approved, natural disaster funding and carryover works. Following a comprehensive review of the capital works program, it now totals 54.08 million, which is 41.26% complete. There is still a risk that delivery of the capital works program will be further impacted by unprecedented weather and the availability of contractors and supply chain issues. Any impacts will be monitored and budgets will be adjusted accordingly in the future quarterly reviews and monthly budget adjustment reports. In summary, Council's projected financial position at the end of the year remains satisfactory. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Director Gator? I have one. It's It's regarding the carryover of the industrial land purchases on page 35 and 37. I was just wondering where we're up to with that, with those sales.
So we're still in the process of finally doing the official registration of those blocks at Reynolds Road. We continue negotiations with 4 or 5 proponents that are interested in those. So we're sort of keeping them on the hook until the official bit of it's done, which we're expecting to happen in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we do get 1 or 2 of those away soon, but we just felt to be conservative, we would push that back into next year. Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Director Zeller. Councillors, I need a mover for the motion on page 34, please. Councillor Morrissey, a seconder. Councillor Hayes. Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Hayes.
Not much in there. I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but we've mentioned there the reconstruction efforts of Council's road network in response to the February 22 floods. When we get to the Coralkai Road, I know we're applying for funding and that to do that area there at near the Bunga-Walton Bridge where the low point is, which is pretty important. I read somewhere where I drove past there the other day, and the farmer there that crosses the road there with his cattle, I don't think he's got a herd at the moment, but he's gearing up, he's put new gates in, he's built some yards there and stuff. He needs to cross that road regularly and with cattle. I'm just thinking if, you know, that should be part of our planning when we get to that, to make sure he's included, because there's grants out there for from the DPI for farmers at the moment to, I think it's $50,000 towards a total cost of 50% towards a total cost of 100 grand to get a underpass put on your property. I think if we could combine that, another $50,000 towards what we've got to do there, if it can be done that way in conjunction with that farmer, would be something to look at. So I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring that up, but I just think it's something that we probably should be looking at a bit further down.
Mr.
Look, I actually was made aware of that funding about a week or so ago in a conversation with a farmer on a different road. I'm not sure the 50,000 is going to help us a great deal if you're going to actually build an underpass in that area, and obviously, whilst we want to raise the level of the road, which means we have to build significant culverts under it. I'm not an engineer, but I think it'll be challenging to get an underpass there. But I think it's a good thought for us to consider. It is a regional road, but it is one that we certainly maintain, and we've currently got an application in as part of the transport betterment funding for that to be raised. So if we were successful, it won't include doing that because it was submitted probably 3 months ago. But anyway, I agree completely with the need to consult with the farmers or the landowners on both sides. Once we hopefully get to the point of being able to get that work done to eliminate what is a weakness in our road network when we have wet weather.
I just think that's a good point Councillor Hayes has brought up, because the more use that road gets and the farmer has to cross, it's going to become more dangerous. So maybe that if the funding is achieved under that Betterment Fund and the design and that, maybe there's some consultation could happen going forward.
I just have to say, if you're going to do it for one farmer, you're going to have to do it for several farmers.
Well, the difference would be that this funding could be available to do that. If the road's not getting done, you just couldn't go along and put one for every farmer. But if the funding's there to lift it, if you just don't miss an opportunity.
I think there's a requirement for a contribution from the landowner as well. And the context of the conversation I had about a week ago with someone, they were actually a dairy farmer, and so the cattle go across the road very frequently. I'm not sure what type of cattle the farmer down in that area has, but that's a consideration. Obviously with dairy cattle, they tend to move more often across roads than others. So all things we need to take into account, but I think raising issues, good to have it in our minds when we move forward with that project.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Morrissey, right to reply? No. I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. 17.3, I believe, is the next one. I call this. I'll move the recommendation on page 43. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second.
Councillor Cornish. Councillors, the main reason I call this is, besides being a very positive report, and they're progressing well on our target for for our returns on our investment. But also I mentioned to the General Manager yesterday about page 43. There's a couple of figures there. When you add them together, they don't come up with the total interest and investment income, but I've been assured by the General Manager that he'll have an answer at the meeting today. So, Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, I will, and I'll let Director Gator explain that, how that reads in the report. So over to you.
Director Gator.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the report could have been a little bit clearer on this, I'm sorry. So the figures that you're talking about, the 702,000 in interest earned and the 744,000 in fair value gains, do not add up to 1.789 million, you're correct. But if you add the 342,479 dollars from the dividend we received off Lehman Brothers in December, that actually totals that figure. That figure will now stay in our total investment income for the rest of the financial year, but from there on we'll actually include that. We'll include wording in that paragraph, so it explains the whole the three figures are added up for that total.
Right, because that from the Lehmans is actually a return on a previous investment.
A previous CDO, correct?
Yep. Okay.
Which will be in the next month. The guys are going to put the figures together on where we actually sit now in relation to what we've got back for our CDOs, because that actually that figure there brings us up to about 75% of that investment that we've got back through insurance claims and other dividends. It's not over yet. We will receive further dividends, but we'll look at all the ones that were affected by the when the CDOs went south, and we'll bring a report back to next month to give Council an update on that.
Thank you. I noticed in the report that says there could be further returns in the wind.
Yeah, it's getting very close to be finalised, but there will be further returns, and we're not too sure how many and how much at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Hayes.
Just like to congratulate the Mayor for picking that up before someone in the public picked it up. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Put their motion then. All those in favour? Councillors, page 50, item 18, general business. There's no reports. So we move on to 51. Matters for information. Could I get a mover, please?
Moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey, a seconder. Councillor Cornish. Councillor Morrissey. Any other councillors like to make a comment or ask a question on matters for information?
I've got a note beside the customer experience report. I've just got to find it now. I was shuffling through here. What are we on? Page 61. Oh yeah, in the under the planning portal there, the key statistics, they go on there, and in the report they've got first responders strive to complete a preliminary assessment within 24 hours of receipt of an application. I think they're pushing their expectations there a bit, because when you go to the next page, on page 65, that little graph at the top shows it's been taken an average of 11 days for that to happen. So, you know, from hoping to do it in 24 hours and then averaging 11 days, I think the report should be written a little bit differently. 11 days.
Sorry, which page is that? The
Okay, on
comment?
page 64 in the business paper.
Yep.
Okay, the comment is under e-planning portal key statistics.
Oh, you strive to complete. So I think
Yeah.
what they mean there is a preliminary assessment within 24 hours. So actually to have what I think that is to have a quick look, see whether it's, you know, if there's something glaringly missing, so they can go straight back rather than, you know, wait till it then, you know, it gets assessed in the coming days. So I think it's a quick look to see, is it close? And if it's close, they'll then queue it up. If it's missing something really obvious, they'll come straight back. So that way, you know, the applicant can start dealing with whatever's missing on day 1 or 2, as opposed to waiting till day 8 or 9.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? On page 60, I have a question that relates to the Rappville Hall. Rappville Hall project is nearing completion, with an open schedule for late February. We all know that will be now on Monday. I'm just asking the General Manager where we're up to with that, and is it all proceeding well?
Certainly is. So yes, the long-awaited opening of the new Rappville Hall in the new Rappville Common precinct is scheduled for next Monday, the 27th of February. It's at 11:30. So we've had invites go out to a wide range of people that have been involved in bringing this project to fruition. Obviously, importantly, Biz Rebuild, who are an arm of the Business Council of Australia, who contributed $500,000 of funding towards that project. Also the Australian Government, who contributed a similar amount, and then Council has contributed to that through insurance proceeds. So it's about a $1.5 million project, very impressive facility, and we're looking forward to that being opened on Monday by the Mayor and also Sir Peter Cosgrove, who is the chair of the Biz Rebuild. But we'll also have some other people who've been involved in, you know, contributions and support, our architects and others there on Monday. So it should be a good event, as well as obviously having our Rappville community there to celebrate some renewal in that community after what they went through 3 or so years ago. So obviously it's community members are welcome to attend as well. But so 11:30 Monday at the Rappville Hall precinct.
Thank you. Any other speakers, questions, comments? Councillor Morrissey?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Item 20, questions on notices. Neil, do we have any questions for the next meeting in writing? Item 21? No. We'll move over to now item 22 on page 88. This is need a motion to go into closed council, please.
Mr Mayor.
Second.
Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Cornish. Mr General Manager, we had any representation why council should not move into closed council?
No, nothing received.
Has anyone in the gallery got a statement on why council should not go into closed council? I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you to the gallery for your attendance. We will be back, I'd say, within 5 minutes. The 2 items will be very quick, I think. So, and that resolution will be read out from closed council then. So thanks for your attendance. If you are going home, travel safely. Thank you. back on. Mr. General Manager, could you read the resolution from closed council, please?
Yeah, I'll let Director Zeller and Director Gator do their relevant reports. Thanks.
Directors?
In the item 22.1, tender VP 339938 mobile amenities, recommend that Council 1 declines all tenders for tender VP 339938 mobile amenities due to them being non-conforming to the tender specifications. 2, applies clause 178(3)(e) of the Local Government General Regulation 2021 to authorise the General Manager to enter into direct negotiations with suitable suppliers with a view to obtaining the best outcome from a financial and delivery perspective, and to finalise the terms of the contract or agreement and affixing the seal of council where necessary. 3, notes that the outcomes of the negotiations will be reported to council for information at a future meeting.
And in relation to report 22.2, write-off of monies under delegation, that council receives and notes the write-off of monies totalling $31,778.56 under the General Manager's delegation, and the policy to write off charges that were levied for services that have been subject to water leak and excess water consumption charges due to impacts of the 2022 floods on water meter and water supply services.
Thank you. You may have noticed that Director Jones was absent, so I'd like to thank Acting Director Timms for your attendance tonight and your input into the meeting. Thanks very much for your attendance, and as I said to the gallery, everyone travel safely on their way home. I'll close the meeting. Thank you.